Hello, my name is Amber Darby. This video is for the Liberty University class on historical professions, and this video is on the dissertations in my preferred field of research, which is on the German victims of World War II. There were many groups in Germany during this time of war who ended up becoming victims of the National Socialist Regime, um, whether it had been through politics established before the war or through aerial bombardment. I've considered focusing on just women, particularly on one group of anti Nazi German women who were sent to concentration camps, but further research will need to be conducted beforehand. The first dissertation that I will be analyzing is Courtney Nelson's Our Weapon is the Wooden Spoon: Motherhood, Racism, and War, the Diverse Roles of Women in Nazi Germany. The sources that were in this dissertation includes primary sources such as Adolf Hitler's speech to the National Socialist Women's League in September of 1934 and books such as Christopher Browning's Ordinary Men. The research is analyzed in a plan, execution, and results kind of manner in which the regime displayed a propaganda of what was considered a perfect German woman. Then they encouraged and in some cases enforced this ideology among the women, and which in the end produced results that were terrible to the people overall, especially for the women. The purpose of the dissertation was to explain the roles of German women during World War II. The author explained how the original purpose of the women were to be the mothers of future soldiers and the source of high morality for the country. And it also explained how the women will become victims of the regime, particularly in terms of sexual accusations, sexual assault, and the lack of overall morale. The author concluded the dissertation by going over the importance of the roles of German women during this time, pointing out three women in particular and how they were considered the perfect Nazi women. Then the author ended by noting that the regime expected women to conduct themselves in one role, had them working in another, and finally they failed the women altogether. A second dissertation that I analyzed was Sarah Gorton's German opposition to Nazi anti-Semitic measures between 1933 and 1945, with particular references to the Rhine-Ruhr area. A large part of this paper contains two appendixes which contain tables and charts that were used as part of the arguments. Another thing that's also interesting is the sources. While some of the sources are listed as secondary sources, there's also a list of secondary sources whose focus is on primary material. The context of the tables and charts would range from the number of Jews in Germany during specific periods of time um, to the number of those who were working as civil servants between 1927 and 1934. The methodology of the paper was done in a more of a cause and effect interpretation in which it explained the cause of anti-Semitism and how people were going against it during World War II. The purpose of the dissertation is to explain the purpose and methods of Nazi anti-Semitism and its opposition by various Germans. In the conclusion, the author provided the major points to the dissertation, explaining why historians believe that anti Semitism rose due to certain ideologies: social Darwinism, conservatism, nationalism, and imperialism. Then, finally, the author explained how the acts of anti Semitism had gradually increased and became more extreme to the point that Hitler would have the goal of exterminating Jews, which, according to certain reports of public opinion, was perceived to be a part of the attributes to Germany's war losses.